Good afternoon, Jasita, Aisha.
Good
Afternoon.
afternoon.
I can't hear you.
We can hear you, sir. Beautiful.
Can you hear
Good
me?
afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's nice meeting you. Let's quickly start our lecture while others will join us. Our topic of today, as you can see in our slide that has been shared to us, is environmental analysis and Potter's diamond theory. That's our topic of today. Since we have a reasonable number of people that have joined now, we can start our lecture. So to start with, we have to first of all look at the background knowledge about business environment that we had a better understanding of what the topic is all about. So we are starting with the nature of the environmental analysis. That is what we are starting with. And by nature of environmental analysis, what you are required to know here is that no organization can work in isolation of its environment, meaning that companies must interact with their immediate environment for them to achieve landmark success and achievement. Because without interaction with the business environment, absolutely nothing can be achieved. So the business environment that we are talking about determine the organization survival. So you can see that interrelate with its environment and its survival. That means the business environment determine the organization survival, it determine the organization success, and as well determine the organization failure. All because the strategic success of companies depend on the ability of the company to respond to the environmental threats and opportunities. So what do I mean by that? The business environment comprises of O and T, opportunities and threats. The threats refers to the turbulence, the challenges that occur in the business environment, which must not allow you as investors, as a businessman entrepreneur to subdue you, overcome you. No matter the degree of the threats or crisis in the business environment, it is expected of a company and individual entrepreneur to formulate policy or strategy to adapt, to cope or overcome those threats. Any company that fails to adapt or overcome their threats, such companies are likely to fail because those threats that if fail to control, adapt or overcome will lead to the collapse of the company. And if the company is still existing, it might decline their growth or bring about static growth. But for those companies that are able to identify and exploit business opportunities, such companies they perform excellently. The exploitation of the opportunity will give them sustainable growth. It will give them competitive edge, achieve their predetermined objectives. And that's the reason why we said that no organization can exist in isolation of its business environment. So the business environment that we are talking about comprises of the customers, the markets, the competitors, the suppliers, the government, and potential sources of new employees. These are some of the stakeholders in a business environment. The analysis of the business environment give the company opportunity to operate seamlessly and strategize in how to achieve their vision and mission statements. With that statement, it implies that company must ensure they embark on continuous environmental scanning. There must be analysis of the business environment, the happenings in the business environment every seconds and every day. It's not a weekly or monthly or yearly or quarterly scenario. There should be constant analysis of the business environment. Because without you analyzing the business environment, you'll not be keep abreast of development about the government policy, development about the competitors, development about the socioeconomic forces, development about the changes in the business environment. So that's the reason why the analysis of the business environment is key to achieving superior performance. So when we analyze our business environment, then we are analyzing all the key variables that make major impacts on the company's success or failure in the business environment. So the business environment too influence the size of the organization. When you look at the paragraph 3, we have the environmental influences on the organization varies. Yes, the degree of challenges, the level of effects of organization forces on companies varies. Some they experience adverse negative effects of the environment. Some the uh, environmental forces presently might be suitable for them. It might give them the opportunity to nurture the company to achieve its growth. So the environmental influences on companies varies and is equally vary with the size of the organization and the type of industry in which they operate. The analysis of the business environment will give the company room to interact with its immediate environment for them to be able to identify and exploit opportunities. And at the same time, the analysis of the business environment will give the company room to put in place adaptation strategy to be able to cope with any unforeseen circumstances or threats that occur within and outside the organization. So, having looked at the basic background and the preambles of what the environmental analysis is all about, then we quickly look at the purpose of environmental analysis. The purpose of environmental analysis, some of the basic objective of environmental analysis is one, to ensure continuous environmental scanning because the forces of the factors in the business environment they are key to our continuous existence. So to achieve that sustainable growth, to achieve our going concern, then we have to analyze the business environment. Two, to achieve positive and significant changes because the business environment is a driver of change. It's not static. Favorable. Tomorrow, that policy of the government might be unfavorable. So because of that, changes the in the consumer behavior, that is one of the reasons why it's very important for us to analyze. Apart from that, the analysis of the business environment is important for us to have a contingency plan. For us to have a contingency plan, because it is important for us to consider the future impact of the environmental forces. So, considering the future impact of the environmental forces necessitates the need for us to continuously analyzing the business environment. So these are some of the basic objectives of analyzing the business environment. You can call it the objective, you can call it the purpose of analyzing the business environment. So having looked at that, then we proceed our lecture. Two types of business environments. So now we are moving to the business proper. The types of the business environment. So basically, we have two types of business environment: internal business environment, the external business environment. We take the first one. The internal business environment, the internal business environment is also called controllable business environment or micro business environment. That's the first thing to know. Because in exam condition, ICAN might decided not to use the word internal. You might just be required to discuss on the controllable variables affecting the organization performance. Or probably we might be required to identify the micro environmental forces that hindered the performance of the company. So that's the reason why we have to know the alternative names. So the internal business environment is also called controllable forces or micro environmental forces. These forces occur within the organization. The forces occur and pose many challenges to the organization. These challenges, if neglected, they are capable of retrogressing the progress of the company. So meaning that we won't say because there are internal challenges, internal threats, then we have to ignore them. No, ignoring them could cause a great effect because to have adverse effects on the company performance. So the internal forces has to be quickly looked into anytime challenges emanate from them so that it will not degenerate to bigger problem that can cause internal disharmony, that can cause delay or destruction of the production plan. Internal environmental forces are controllable. The reason why we call them controllable forces is because they are forces that occur within the organization. As a result of that, they can be manipulated, they can be controlled, or maneuvered. So that means anytime there are internal crises, the management can quickly set up a committee or direct that issues to one of the administrative manager or functional manager to see how that problem can be resolved. So typical examples of internal forces are: one, the objectives of the company. So you'll be wondering how come the objective of the company becomes an internal crisis of forces. Yes, if the objective of the company is not set in line or within the SMART framework, SMART, then automatically there's going to be crisis. So that means the company objective needs to be set within the framework of SMART, meaning that the objective has to be specific, that is X. The objective has to be measurable, that is M. The objective has to be attainable. We mustn't set objectives that will be too ridiculous for us to achieve or that will subject the staff to unethical behavior. So our objective has to be realistic. That is R. That objective need not be ambiguous. It has to be realistic. And the T in that SMART framework means that our objective have to be time bound. There should be a time frame within which we want to achieve, be it our goals, our objective, or strategy. If it's short time, that is 1 to 2 years. Medium time, so we must have that time which we want to achieve our goals and objectives. Another typical example of internal forces is the employees that are regarded as the internal stakeholders of the company. They are valuable assets of the company, and at the same time, they have legitimate claims. If those legitimate claims are not met, then it can cause crisis. They might be demanding for improvement in the working condition, increase in salary, unbiased appraisal, and some other motivational packages come into their needs and listing, give them a listing here to see how this issue can be solved through collective bargaining. Then it can result into bigger crises that will affect the company performance. So having looked at the internal forces, then we quickly look at the external business environmental forces. The external business environmental forces is also called uncontrollable or macro forces that occur outside the organization. You can see the difference now. The internal business environmental forces occur within, but the external business environmental forces, they occur outside the organization. And we call them uncontrollable forces because it is extremely difficult to control them. So what we can do as a corporate entity and government is for us to formulate adaptation strategy or policy. So the external business environment comprises of the political forces, the economic forces, and demographic forces. Even the external business environment too comprises of the global forces that occur in international domain. All because we have companies here in Nigeria that participate in offshore business, like the banking industry in Nigeria now. We have some companies that engage in exportation and importation of goods. So there is diversity in government ideology, government policy, the documentation, international product standard, and many more. So these are the variables that determine the success of the company. So as a result of that, we have to have a very critical understanding of all these external environmental forces. In the syllabus, I can require that the students must understand two models of environmental analysis. That means anytime they want to ask us questions on external business environment, they will ask us to either use pestle analysis or Porter-Diamond's theory. And it is possible we might have a scenario whereby both pestle analysis and Porter-Diamond's theory will be tested in one question. I think I stand clear there before I move forward. That the two models of environmental analysis are pestle analysis and Porter-Diamond's theory. These two models, they are applicable for analyzing the external environmental challenges. So it is possible in the first coming exam, if this topic comes out, personal analysis can be stated, or both personal analysis and Porter-Diamond's theory can be tested. We can have one in question number 1A, the other one in question number 1B. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize. The personal analysis, to start with, is a model that we use to identify and analyze all the various environmental variables that occur outside the organization and which are difficult to control. Why? The Porter-Diamond model, we use it to analyze the reasons why some corporate organizations enjoy both domestic and international competitive advantage. So those are the two things that we are going to look at now. So we start with personal analysis. The personal analysis is an acronym or framework used to explain external business environment. You might be lucky in exam condition, the question might be direct and open-ended, whereby we'll be required to discuss on the personal analysis and its effect or significance on a company performance. But in another way, ICAN can give us a comprehension, that is a case scenario, and they will tell us about the company, all the effects of the environmental challenges, particularly the external environmental forces, how it affects the company performance. So you will now be required that using the personal analysis, discuss on the effects of the personal analysis on the effectiveness of the company performance or strategy. That means all the indicators they give us, we have to categorize them. The one that fall under P, the one that fall under E, the one that fall under S, the one that fall under technology, ecological, and legal. So the personal analysis that I've told you aids business environmental analysis, particularly the external business analysis. The personal analysis stands for P for political forces, E for ecological forces, S for sociocultural. Okay, as I was saying, the personal analysis will give us opportunity to analyze the various environmental factors affecting corporate performance. So all the various environmental forces affecting companies are put in the diagrammatic representation. As you can see, we have the political forces, the economic forces, the social forces, technological forces, the environmental forces. These environmental forces that we have here is equally called ecological forces or demographic forces, while the last one that we have is legal forces. So the first one, political factors or forces. The political forces are the external political factors that affect the performance of the company in any industry where they operate. These political forces affect the company philosophy, their objectives, strategies, and at the same time, influence the customers' buying decisions. The political forces or factors are highly uncontrollable. So the only thing a businessman, corporate organizations can do is to see how they can adapt to all these political forces. since they are highly uncontrollable. Typical example of the political forces are the tax law, employment law, political instability, constitutional provisions, governance. Be it the governance is effective or is a poor governance, it has tremendous effect on the performance of the company. So the political forces, they are highly uncontrollable, including corruption, abuse of law. You and I understand what we are experiencing, even in this incumbent government. The second one is economic factors or forces. The economic forces, too, is one of the elements in a pested framework which is uncontrollable by corporate organizations. Some of the indices in the economic environment that affect corporate performance are taxation level, that is the effect of tax, inflation rate, balance of trade and exchange rate, level of employment, the interest rate too, the government subsidy, and foreign exchange rate. You can say the foreign exchange rate is a major determinant of the price of produce. And that's the reason why we are having increasing and unstable price of produce. Because the foreign exchange today can increase, tomorrow we can hear that the naira gains some weight. After some couple of seconds, the naira might lose the weight again. So Nigerian naira is very weak. So due to that huge amount of exchange rates is affecting the operational expenses of companies. And this in turn to affect the price at which they sell and the customer's patronage. So companies do not have control over the interest rate, over the government policy, over the foreign exchange rate, over unemployment rate. So all these economic indicators, they affect corporate performance, including the freedom of capital movement and relative exchange rates. Okay, having looked at that, we look at the social factors. So what are the social forces that affect the company performance? You see, the social forces comprises of the combination of the social and cultural forces that influence the buying habits, behavior, and decisions of the consumers. So the social forces shape the attitude and perception of the entire citizen and the consumers. And as a result of that, it is highly uncontrollable and has greater influence on the company performance. So the social forces comprises of the changing values and lifestyle of the consumers, the beliefs, the demographic changes, effect of culture, effect of religion, and at the same time, family influence. Because the family and peer group, they fall under social forces. And they have influence on what we buy, what we eat, what we do, and what we don't do. So all the social forces here, they have influence on the buying decisions of the consumers. Technological factor or forces. The rapid changes in technology across the globe affect the performance of companies, not only in developing countries like Nigeria, but even in emergent and advanced economies. In Nigeria, the level of technology is poor, but it's better we use that word pure than low. And this is attributed to deficiency in the government policy in the area of technology, research and development, and innovation. The government funding for technology is low. And that's the more reason why Nigeria continues to become a consuming nation. We import virtually everything, including toothpaste, uh, cotton board, matches, toothpick. I've seen some toothpicks, some matches, and cotton board. It says these products are produced in Indonesia. And that is one of the major reasons why Nigeria is not yet an industrialized nation, because we believe in borrowed technology. So this low level of technology made the strategy of company to become obsolete, all because technology is changing every day. So for companies to improve their performance and adapt with continuous changes in technology and innovation, they must invest heavily in technology. And if a company is financially deficient, they can go into collaboration with a company that is versatile in ICT, that can serve as a backbone for them to be able to meet up with other competitors, particularly the multinational companies, and gain competitive advantage. So the next one is environmental factor or forces. And I inform you here that this second E that we have as environmental forces here, we can as well call it ecological forces or demographic forces. So another name for the environmental forces here is demographic forces or ecological forces. These ecological forces guide the government budgetary provisions. The ecological forces too discuss comprehensively on some indicators that can bring about sustainable and improved performance for the company. And at the same time, it talks about the environmental regulations and the expectations of company to carbon footprint. For instance, in the environmental or ecological forces, it is expected of companies to adopt what we call green manufacturing. It has become one of the millennium goals that they want to reduce the number of emissions, they want to reduce the number of pollution. So company must show the evidence of carbon footprints and how their production operation will not endanger the life of the society. At the same time, the ecological forces too also comprises of the effect of the population size and density, the climatic change. It talks about the death and birth rate, security, and CSR, corporate social responsibility. So all these forces have to be looked into, were diagnosed by the management, for them to be able to work in accordance with the government regulations and achieve their objective without having any crisis with the host community and the government. So all the indices under the ecological factors, they influence and affect the performance of the company, and they are highly uncontrollable. Next, we have the legal forces. The legal forces comprises of the government laws, regulations, the government policy, the tax law, employment law, environmental regulation law, CBN regulations, CBN regulations or directives, and we have here the Bofia Act. The Bofia Act means the Banks and Other Financial Institution Act. So what we are saying here is that all these laws, including the constitutional provision, company must ensure total compliance without violation. But attempt to violate all these laws will bring about litigation and capital punishments for the company. And it can drag the image of the company into disrepute. So to avoid this, legal forces are highly uncontrollable, and company must ensure they comply and adapt with different government regulations. So the ecological influences, we have discussed about this, that I told you that is also called the environmental forces. So, and I told you that the ecological forces comprises of the climatic condition, the security, the birth rate, the death rate, the sources and supply of raw materials. You can see raw materials here. So we have migration and immigration. All these things are elements under the ecological forces that have greater influence on the performance of the company. Okay, having a look at that, we are done with environmental forces analysis using PESTEL. So as time goes on, we are still going to start solving some past questions. I'll bring some past questions that have to do with PESTEL analysis and Porter Diamond's model. You see how ICAN sets the question. So we solve that question together. So this one will give you confidence and the approach to questions, that in case this thing is repeated or is set in another way, how you can approach those questions. I will explain everything to you, because we made the class to be interactive. Okay, let's continue. We have the second topic of the day, which is Porter's Diamond model. Before we start, do you have any question on environmental analysis, the PESTEL analysis? Is there any question, or I should proceed? Hello? Response, please. Should I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we move to the Porter's Diamonds model. The Porter's Diamond model is also called National Competitive Theory. This theory was formulated by Michael Porter to explain the reason why some companies enjoy local and international competitive advantage. that irrespective of the type of industry where they operate, evidence shows that there are some companies that they are performing excellently well in the local market, domestic market where they are operating. And within a twinkle of an eye, they expand to international markets and they are still performing excellently. In fact, they perform to the extent that they are having remarkable success than some of the existing competitors they met at the international domain. So this caused a lot of concern and debate among scholars. It was because of this unending debate that Michael Porter now came up with this theory that is called Diamond's theory or national competitive theory to explain reasons why a company can enjoy both domestic and global competitive advantage. According to Porter, company can enjoy local and competitive advantage in any industry where they operate if they possess, I mean, if they have these four factors. That means any nation, any country, or any company that have these four factors and they are used effectively. Because it is one thing for us to have it is another for us to effectively utilize it. So the Porter's Diamond theory is talking about a nation and it's talking about companies. Any company that have these four factors highlighted. The first one is firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. The second one, factor conditions. The third one, demand conditions. And the last one is support from related companies. Support from related companies. Though we have it a related and supporting industry, what it implies is that support from related companies. So these four factors that we are seeing, they are interrelated and interwoven. And the very reason why some scholars call all these four factors, they call them interlocking strategies. Because if the four of them are used very well, they will give you remarkable and improved performance and sustainable competitive advantage in any industry where you are operating. So the four factors that we are talking about are illustrated diagrammatically. You can see we have the firm strategy, structure, and rivalry linked with demand conditions. That one too has a link with support from related industry. There's an arrow to linking them with factor conditions. So that means all these forces are interrelated with each other. Let's look at the first one. The first one is firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. So what does Porter means by this? The simple meaning is this, and which I expect you to tell the examiners, because this topic comes out very well in exam. Be it they give you case scenario or direct question. So Porter informs us that any company that put in place effective organization structure, that means the company have a functional structure. It is that functional structure that will give them the benefit to have good coordination direction, team spirit, hierarchy of authority, and effective communication. Meaning that without putting in place good structure, nothing can be achieved by any company or individual. So when I put in place a good structure, the company in turn formulates good strategy. That strategy that was formulated was well implemented. Well implemented, the strategy was evaluated and controlled. Then such companies are about to perform very well, be it they are operating in the local or international competitive advantage. Porter go further to inform us that rivalry is one of the key elements that give company competitive advantage. That any company that always engage in what we call competition analysis, that was our topic last weekend, that companies that knew that they are not the only one in the industry. They engage in constant environmental scanning. They monitor the emergence of new entrants. They see what is our bargaining power to the supplier. So any company that engage in competition analysis, such company perform very well, be they are operating in the domestic or global or both. So in summary, putting in place a good structure, formulating, implementing, and evaluating our strategy, including periodic control, together with analysis of our rival competitors, give company national competitive advantage. And it is a nation too, because these are the things that is missing, the missing link in Nigeria. We remove subsidy, no structure, no strategy. We don't have plan B, no contingency plan. We don't even see that we have rivals. That, okay, we don't want Egypt to do better more than us in Africa. We don't want China to do more than us. We don't want the situation whereby one country will be dominating. Most of the areas where Nigeria have comparative cost advantage in the past, like exportation of cocoa, exportation of gold, fertilizer, and what have you, we have lost all those things due to undue reliance on crude oil. Even the crude oil that we have is a resources cost because it's not effectively utilized. The money that comes in there, we are not using it to expand and improve the economy to better the life of the citizen. So Porter is not saying if a nation put in place good structure, good strategy, and rivalry, they want to be competitive, then they will perform very well. The second one is factor condition. Factor conditions. What do we call factor conditions? The factor condition refers to effective use of some basic natural resources that God give a nation. And if a country too is operating in such a nation that is blessed or endowed with all these resources, then such countries too will perform. The factor condition is referring to two things. Under this factors condition, please, if you have a biro or pencil there, you can jot it down. Porter stated that there are two factor conditions. Help me to jot that down. Michael Porter stated that there are two factor conditions. We have one, basic factors, and the second one is advanced factors. I will repeat that again. According to Michael Porter, there are two factor conditions. We have one, basic factor, and the second one, advanced factor. So the scholar said that the basic factors comprises of all the natural resources that a nation is endowed with. All the natural resources that a company can have access to. Those are the things that are regarded as basic factors. So the basic factors comprises of crude oil, cocoa, timber, cotton, soil, water, land, increasing population. Those are the things that Porter call basic factors under factor condition. He said when all these basic factors are effectively utilized by a nation or company, then they stand to gain competitive advantage. So the second one that the scholar talks about is what we call advanced factors. He said the advanced factors refers to the investment of a nation or company on research and development, investment on innovation, investment on technology, investment on their staff that we call human capital development. That if a nation invests in all these areas, including investing on new product development or product differentiation, he said the company will do very well in the international and local domain. So under the factor condition, we have two factor conditions, the basic factors and we have the advanced factor. The third interlocking strategy that was discussed by the scholar is demand conditions. Demand conditions. By that demand condition, the Porter says that the home demand largely affects. What is the meaning of that statement? That statement has gravity. It has a weight. So the scholar is saying that the demand for the company's product in the domestic market is one of the primary factors that foster further expansion and improve performance of the company. Because if the company is not enjoying increasing home demand, then automatically there is possibility that the company will have collapsed. There is tendency that the company might be experiencing static growth or declining growth. If the demand for the company's product in the domestic market is low, fluctuating, or negative, there is tendency the company will have lost their competitive position for a long time. So it was not saying that increasing demand from the local market encourage company to go into international domain. It buttressed further that increasing demand give opportunities for the company to grow and become a better company. Why? Because the more the customers' demand is increasing, the more the company is realizing profitability, high return on investment. So part of the money they are gaining as profit was not totally shared among the shareholders. They plow back. So the continuous expansion and increase in production capacity to meet the increasing demand of the customers will force them to go into international markets. And by the time they go into international markets, all they need to do is for them to meet all the international conditions in terms of knowing the customer's preference, to be innovative. They have to make their product to be innovative. Their products by improving the quality to international standard. So once this has been done, then automatically they are going to gain patronage in the international market. If the company is able to meet with the conditions of the international regulatory body, like Standard Organization of Nigeria now, they move the standard. All the bodies that regulate international products, up to the packaging, the quality of the product, if there is a total compliance and there is consistency in the product quality of the company without violation of any regulations, then such company will gain customers and they will be able to perform excellently. So Porter is now saying that increasing demand play a pivotal role in ensuring companies perform better in the domestic and international community. That without increasing demand, then there is no way the company will grow. There is no way the company can formulate or produce a quality product that the increasing demand of the customers give them competitive advantage. The last one that the scholar talks about is support from related industry or complaints. Support from related industry or complaints. By support from related industry or complaints, this one is very direct, it's simple. What it means is that one of the basic reasons why some complaints are having tremendous and improved local and international competitive advantage is because they are receiving unending support from the government, they are receiving support from parent complaints, they are receiving support from subsidiary complaints. It might be that complaint too, they are receiving support from uh, individual philanthropies. It was amazing late last year when Femi Otedola, the major shareholders in First Bank, donated substantial billions of naira to Lagos State government. He sent one of his kids to present the check to the governor of Lagos State. I watched it live when it was broadcasted. So some states they don't have this kind of support. Some companies they don't have this kind of support. These are the supports that the likes of Dangote and the rest, Bua, they are enjoying that make them to have competitive advantage over others. And in fact, we have some multinational companies too that enjoy support from foreign donors. Some multinational companies too, they are in collaboration with a local firm in Nigeria. So as a result of that, our local company will be doing very well because it's getting support from multinational companies. So any company that is enjoying any form of support, be it from government, from private sectors, from World Health Organization, UNICEF, parent company, subsidiary company, or through joint ventures, strategic alliance, and many more, those companies perform very well in both local and international markets. So that is what the scholar is talking about, and I've explained that any support that we have from the government, just that the government too at times they are highly unreliable. You can see the challenges Dangote was having last year, even up to now, because they have to import barrels of crude oil from America this month, and that costs it billions of naira. Because the needed support is expecting in form of collaboration from the government. The NNPC is not giving him. So the government at times they like competition, but in the areas where they have vested interest, they give some company support while others will not receive such support, and that is not good for nurturing competition in the country. At the same time, we have what we call chance. Though this chance was not directly discussed by the scholar, that is the major proponent of the diamond theory, Michael Porter. He doesn't. But in the course of understanding of this theory and the practical application of the theory, we discover that by chance, some companies do better than others. Why? Because some companies, they might be operating in a nation that is endowed with larger numbers of rare natural resources that other companies do not have access to. Is that understood? Like, for instance, now, a company that is operating production of wine, if the company is in Nigeria, there is a tendency that they might not grow. But if the company now, for instance, their major competitors operate in France, where they have series of arable lands that support the growth of fruit that they can convert to produce wine, then such company will produce very well. Under this chance too, there are some natural events that create chance or opportunity for company to make good return on investment. By this issue of chance too, it give opportunity for some company to identify areas of diversification. Let's pick this that I highlighted: natural disaster. In late 2020 up to early 2022, there was a natural disaster that nearly collapsed the whole world. That is COVID-19. The emergence, sudden emergence of COVID-19 led to loss of life. And yet, some people still see this as an opportunity and chance to make money and diversify their investment. A good example, 7-Up bottling company. The advent of COVID-19 that occurred in Wuhan, China, give opportunity for 7-Up bottling company to diversify conglomerately to the production of B2 Sure and sanitizer. And at that time, my learning students, they make billions of naira. Because ordinarily, what people leverage on was to go ABBA. A lot of people are now eating ginger, black seed, uh, cloves, and what have you. And you could recall that that period too, people use a lot of hand sanitizer, Dettol, and what have you. So the company too, they produce just 7-Up, Pepsi, and some other things. But surprisingly, they diversify into production of hand sanitizer, antiseptic soap, and what have you. And it has come to stay now. So ability to utilize some sudden opportunity that occur in the business environment or a nation give you competitive advantage.